This is the Fertile Mindset podcast, where we explore all the emotional aspects of fertility to support you on your path to parenthood. My name is Sarah Holland. I'm the Fertile Mindset coach and a mother to 2 children after my own fertility challenges. I hope you find all the support and inspiration you need within this podcast to carry you forward on your fertility journey towards your own successful outcome. It's also my wish that through listening to these episodes, you rediscover how to enjoy life now and live it to the full while you wait for your baby. Now, let's begin today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Fertile Mindset podcast. I am so happy to have you with us, and I hope you're finding all the support you need within these episodes. We have over 1 year's worth now of weekly episodes, so there is lots for you to explore. Today I'm sharing a chat that I had with Vanessa Gillis-Phelps, who is the founder of Queer Fertility, where she coaches individuals and couples with tailored support to meet the unique challenges faced by the LGBTQ community. She's a mother herself alongside her wife, having conceived 2 amazing donor-conceived children. In this conversation, we also dive into Vanessa's other passion of spirit baby communication. I hope you enjoy listening, and if you want to hear more from Vanessa, more about how she uses EFT to support her coaching clients and to take part in a round of tapping with her, then join us at the Fertility Stress Solution Summit that is happening this week. If you join now, there's still time to catch Vanessa's session. I hope you enjoy listening to our conversation here on the podcast now and at the summit too. Hello, Vanessa. Welcome to the Fertile Mindset podcast. It's really lovely to have you here. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
This isn't the first time that we've spoken, is it? We've only just met, really, but this is already the second time we've had a really great conversation. And we spoke at the Fertility Stress Solution Summit, which we're right in the middle of this week. It's all happening. And we had such a lovely conversation at that summit that I knew I really wanted you to come onto the podcast as well and talk more about your story, about the unique kind of support that you offer. And yeah, just see where our conversation goes. I enjoyed the summit chat so much. I'm sure we're going to have a lovely chat here.
Yes, that was so fun. The EFT summit was so much fun. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. And now we're in the midst of it all. It's all happening. And yes, it's an EFT summit is what we're focusing on, because that's what we have in common is the technique EFT, emotional freedom techniques, also called tapping. And whilst I'm sure while we talk now about your story and about how you support other people, I'm sure we'll still mention tapping here and there because it's such a big part of what we both do.
Yes.
But our real conversation where we got really deep into how you use EFT and you also guided us through a beautiful tapping round that we can take part in. That's all over on the summit. So I'm just going to mention the sign up link now so we don't forget that later in case we just get so immersed in our chat. But the summit, if you haven't signed up to it already, lovely podcast listeners, it's happening right now. It's completely free to register and listen to the day's sessions free of charge. Vanessa's one hasn't gone out yet. If you're listening to this on the Thursday that the podcast is released, then you still do have time to catch up with Vanessa's session and tap along with us both as well there. So go and check out the summit. And now we're back to you, Vanessa. So I'd really love to start our chat, just hearing a little bit more about you and how you got into this world of fertility support and where it all began for you.
Yeah. So, it's so interesting because I never would have thought I would be doing this type of work. It's amazing healing work that I get to offer my clients and my community. And, as I mentioned through the summit, a little bit about my experience, it was really twofold. When my wife and I first decided, okay, we're ready to start trying, it took a lot to get our son here. There was so much that we didn't know. We were so overwhelmed with information and let alone accurate information. And so, we did go on to conceive our son. And then when it came time that we wanted to have another child, it was like the whole process started all over again. I thought it would be so easy, okay, we did it once, let's do it again. And it was just a whole new ball game. And so it was, I remember we were trying, and several thousands and thousands of dollars invested, doing all the same things, checking everything off the list as we often do, right? The more that we can control, or at least the more like we feel like we can control, we feel like, that's going to help everything. But for me, it was really all of that control was just kind of like squeezing, restricting everything is what I felt like. I was holding on to everything so tightly. And so I just felt, after each unsuccessful cycle, it got harder and harder. And, for people in the queer community, if you are using sperm from a sperm bank, it's, you have only so many vials, right? You have your donor who contributes X amount of vials. And once you go through those, if you're really attached or connected to this donor, that kind of adds a lot of extra pressure. And I think that was the thing that was really hitting us the hardest, was that, we already had a son from this donor who we really loved, who we really felt connected to. And I would say, okay, this has to be the cycle because, we only have so many vials left. And okay, well, now this really has to be the cycle. And so I just was creating so much extra pressure on myself. But Sarah, we did go on to get pregnant. And I thought, okay, this is great. We did it. But then unfortunately, we had a miscarriage. And oh my goodness, that was so hard. It was so, so difficult. But I will say that is where, my journey with EFT really started. And just using that technique of tapping, kind of that strange little, the weird looking technique, as people often tell me, it really allowed me to start to heal. I know there's a lot of kind of confusion and question about, does it just minimize the grief, or does it just dismiss everything? And that's not the case at all. It really allows you to clear up the closet, as I always say, and really see things for what they are, to really gain clarity on whatever it is you're feeling. So that was the case for me. It allowed me to just process things, to move through everything that I was feeling, to honor and acknowledge what I was going through, because I think that's a lot of it too. It's like we think all of these thoughts, but it's harder to put words to it, to really speak them out loud. And I don't know, just with EFT, it just allowed me to be really honest with myself. I think that was the biggest piece, was really, really honest with myself. But it was through that EFT, through several other techniques that I used, that allowed us to heal, to move forward, and to get pregnant with our second child. And now, because of that experience, I am able to bring these gifts to the world, especially within my community, to share with them and to help them create the families, that they're dreaming of and they're wishing for. So it was a beautiful turn of events.
Wow, thank you for, I wanted to speak so many times, but I wanted to hear the end story as well. I wanted to hear that whole completion, because I knew that you had your two children, but I could really feel the pressure that you speak of there,
Yes.
and in the midst of what you were saying, and you were saying about, having that limited number of opportunities with the donor that you'd not only become attached to, but of course was the donor of your first child. And that just really hit me in my heart when you said that. I could really feel how important that felt for you at the time, and the pressure and the stress that must have been involved in wanting and willing every attempt to work. And then the highest of high, can you imagine when you got the first results the second time round, that it did work?
I was like, we did it. Yes.
And then how heartbreaking for, to go through a loss. I'm so sorry that you experienced that, but I can hear how that experience has brought you that connection with the fertility community and others going through a similar journey to you, because this isn't straightforward, is it? It's not like, I know we talk about this in the summit, how you're taught at school, that you just, man meets woman, they marry, they get pregnant, and they have babies, and they all live happily ever after. And, for so many reasons, so many parts of that story are wrong and incorrect for many people. But, it's just one challenge after another, isn't it? When you can see that kind of extra stress there, that extra pressure that isn't easy for me. I need to make this work in this particular way. and how different it can be when you bring in the right kind of mindset and emotional support, and how that can be the energy that kind of pulls you through, can't it, even the toughest times. And I love what you said there about the loss, and how it didn't minimize your grief. It just helped you really gain clarity on where you were and what you were feeling, and then helping you move through that, honor and acknowledge where you are, which is a tough part, isn't it, of any journey. If we experience a loss, if you are still planning to continue to conceive, it's really hard to imagine, well, how do I recover from this loss? How do I grieve the baby I lost and then still move on to another? So it's tough times, definitely.
And I want to add in there too, Sarah, that actually during my healing process, I had come across, I don't even know how, divine intervention, I always say, but I came across one of your summits at the time. And it was at the right, perfect time that I needed something, because while I was able to use EFT, I still was very naive, or very unaware of all of the tools and support that's really offered. I didn't even know what fertility coaching was yet. And when I believe it was actually I want to say the Path to Parenthood Summit.
Oh, okay.
And hearing your voice, just hearing your story and hearing the stories of so many others. Oh my goodness, that was just such a gift to me. It gave me something to look forward to each day. And I could feel my light shining just a little bit brighter again, and a little bit brighter. And so I'm so grateful for you for, you sharing that with me.
Amazing. Oh, thank you for sharing that with me. Well, we're in the middle of what is a crazy week when you run a summit. It's insane, because we have all you amazing speakers, and then we have a huge audience and lots of technology that threatens to go wrong, and it's crazy. And I started running the summits in 2010, so quite a while ago now, but this is the first time I've done one on this scale since 2018. So it's 4 years now. 4 years. And I think I was a bit nervous about doing it again. Now I've got 2 children and my life's quite busy, and I thought, can I really do this? But I always know that it's so worth it, because it is bringing together all that information in one place, all that inspiration and support, in one place. It's because you said right at the start, that it was quite overwhelming for you, didn't you? Of where do I go now? There's a lot of information out there. How do I find the right information? How do I know which path to go down? And I think when you're involved in any kind of summit or an event, where you've got this kind of choice of speakers that you can listen to and routes that you can go down, it's so helpful. It gives you that really strong start point, doesn't it, and opens up a whole world of different support and potential solutions as well. So that's amazing to know that we met before we met.
Yes,
if you like.
Did. That's right.
Through that event. Oh, brilliant. And of course you had EFT. You mentioned about how that was supportive, and we talk a lot more about that at the summit session, so we won't repeat ourselves too much here. But you said that obviously that you've gone full circle now. You have your 2 children. You've been through so many different experiences now that can really help you relate to the people you support. So could you share a little bit about what that is that you do? Because I know from my perspective as well, I definitely support people who've had a similar journey to me, but it's so diverse and so wide, isn't it? The different experiences that people can have on a fertility journey, and definitely for the queer community, although you may think, well, it's all about donors and it's all this and that. No, there's so many different routes, aren't there? And so many different things that can happen. Can you give us an overview of how your support works and the kind of issues you support with?
Yes, absolutely. So I serve clients in 2 ways. Sometimes my clients are lucky enough to find me right at the very start of their journey. And so I'm already immediately able to clear up confusion from Dr. Google, as we say, and really just from the beginning, save them so much time, energy, and money, because, there are certain routes that we want to explore because we don't know what we don't know, right? And so, for example, like I have some clients that come to me and they really want to do what's called the shipping method. And for those that don't know, shipping method is to use, let's say you have a donor maybe a really great friend who just happens to live across the country. So too far to kind of drive to retrieve the sample, but someone that you just feel connected with and you say, you know what, I really want to use them. I'm going to give it a try. Let me have them ship their sperm through, via whatever mail carrier, FedEx, UPS, doesn't matter. And so I have a lot of people that they're really excited about that and they really want to try it. And for Sarah, I always tell them, like, you know your baby best and you know your body best. So I'm here to offer guidance and support. But if there's something I share that it just feels out of alignment, that's okay. You always do what feels best for you. But I know from all of the years of experience that I have working with so many different individuals and couples in the queer community, unfortunately, the shipping method just does not have great success at all. In fact, I have yet to have a client who's been successful with it. As you can imagine, sending sperm through the mail, it has to be packaged in such a specific way that by the time it gets to you, it's usually not viable anymore. And they even have these microscopes that you can attach to your iPhone or smartphone that allow you to see the mobility of the sperm. And if you check, you'll see that unfortunately they're no longer mobile. Mm-hmm. But that, that experience, that can cost already several hundreds of dollars. And so I had a client that was doing it month after month after month, several thousands in. And I was like, okay, are we ready to try something else? And finally she was like, yes, Vanessa, okay, I realized I thought I could make it work. It's not going to work. Let me move on to something else. And then she got pregnant right away. So it's just, different things like that we think, whether we hear about from different Facebook groups or forums or wherever you choose to get your information. Finding me right away from the start, I can save people so much time and money in that way. The other way that I work with clients and that I serve them is offering that mindset work, that mental emotional support. And one of my most favorite ways actually is to help people learn about something called pre-birth communication, or as I like to call it, spirit baby communication. And when I first share this term with people, it's so interesting, the reactions that I get. For some people, they're immediately intrigued and curious. And for other people, they're kind of like, what? Like, is this lady just crazy? What is this? But Sarah, it's so funny because the ones that kind of like raise the eyebrow and say, okay, I think Vanessa's a little cuckoo, they are the ones that end up getting the deepest into it or feel the most connected with it. And so I always have to laugh about that. That they're kind of the most skeptical at first, but then they end up just falling in love with the art of spirit baby communication. Those are definitely ways that I love to serve my clients.
And, I could see a kind of connection between the two there, because when you were talking about people having their own maybe fixed ideas sometimes of how they want to do a certain thing, like this is what I believe. Of course, it's useful to have a container, isn't it, to explore that. And, you can provide that kind of space for your clients to say, okay, so tell me what it is that you have ideas about, what methods, what approaches appeal to you, and we can discuss them. And you obviously have information and, you can inform them so that they have all the knowledge available to them, like you say, about the shipping method not really seeming to be that successful. They can have all that information, but still it comes back to that parent to be, doesn't it? It comes back to them.
Absolutely.
To when you said your baby best, that just sent shivers down me. It's like, yeah, it's like having that connection to the baby that you're bringing in, that you're inviting in. Who knows how and where they'll come from and who exactly they will be. But I think when you're on this journey, there does often get to a point where you really feel that connection strongly. You go through so much, don't you? And you go through so much kind of practical stuff and logistical stuff and financial stuff and medical stuff and all of that. But then when you feel that connection to that child, which is what it is all about, that's the truth of it. That's the long-term picture. It's not this short-term difficult, route to parenthood. It is being a parent. Yes. And it's quite magical, isn't it? And that's when, because I knew that you did the spirit baby communication, I knew we'd probably touch on it today. And when you said, your baby best, it just felt like an allowing. Okay, so yes. let's go with it. You know best. This is you, and it's your baby, and you're not going to kind of interfere with that process. It's between you and your baby. Let's just grow that connection and see where it takes you. Because I think when you really feel that connection, which I definitely felt at various times on my journey, things start to just feel a bit easier, you know, feel like they can flow a bit more easily, and you have a clearer mind and you make the choices that feel right for you. You're really getting in touch with your intuition. But I'd love to hear a bit more about the spirit baby communication. Then, like you say, you talk to people about it and they're a little bit, I'm not sure about this, but then they love it. You know, what happens then? What does that look like? What's the communication like?
Yeah. And so, I mean, even right now, just to start off, like, if you're listening right now and you're thinking, I'm intrigued, or, oh, that's interesting, what is this all about? You know, if you're in a space to just close your eyes for a moment, just to tune in. And I always say to start with hand on heart, hand on womb or belly, and skin to skin, because they're so, so as you remember, it's very easy to be disconnected with our bodies through this process, right? And so sometimes just that kind of hand to heart, hand to womb, or hand to belly, skin to skin connection just starts to melt down these walls or these kind of blocks that we've put up around ourselves without knowing that we're doing that. And so I always start with that connection as just making that contact, if you're, again, in a space to do that. But even just to think for a moment, when I say, I'll ask the question, what do you already know about your baby? And so again, people sometimes will say, well, I'm not even pregnant yet. How can I know anything about them when they're not, I don't have any connection with them, or they're not even here. And, I always say that how do I phrase this? A lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we already feel or what we already know. So for example, I'm going to guess that, you probably already see a gender when you kind of daydream about your baby. Do you see a boy, a little bouncing boy, toddling around? Or do you see a girl? Do you see bows in the hair or dresses, or, whatever way you identify with that gender? Do you maybe see what their eyes look like, or the smile on their face, the color of their hair? And a lot of times as I'm kind of walking them through this, then they say, oh, you know what, you're right. I have always seen a little boy who looks like, my grandfather, looks like, one of my siblings, or, and they start to describe it. But it's really, again, giving yourself permission to explore something that may feel a little uncomfortable or a little different than what you're used to. But yeah, it's always interesting to see people come back and say, you know what, Vanessa, I guess I always thought I was a little crazy or kind of making things up in my head, because I've had dreams about my baby, or dreams where, we're playing together or sharing this book together. And I'm like, that's your baby already communicating with you. Just giving yourself permission to put a name to it, let's say, to say, oh, okay, that's what it is. That's what I've been doing. I just didn't realize I was doing it all along.
And it's such a gift, isn't it, to have those feelings, especially when it's dreams and it just feels real, and you can really see yourself in that position of being that child's parent, and see how you will be. And it just feels so much more in touching distance, doesn't it? And achievable and real.
Absolutely.
So I think it is, such a gift to allow that. I can understand how people would feel conflicted in different ways. Like you say, sometimes it's just what on earth is this about? It's a bit out there, a bit woo-woo. But also like kind of wanting to protect their heart a little bit, and saying, dare I step into that and really imagine myself and see myself with my baby, and name what I see my baby as, and because it feels very vulnerable, doesn't it, to go there?
Yeah, for a lot of people it is. There's a lot of fear that we've kind of attached to, and rightfully so, especially if there's been loss, in whichever form that looks like. And so there is a lot of trepidation, there's a lot of fear. But I can tell you, through every client that has nurtured that connection, oh my goodness, it has been such a gift to them, knowing that, okay, I may not know exactly when I will get pregnant or when this is going to happen, but I feel that connection so strongly. Now I have that trust, and I'm just going to do the best I can to take care of myself while I wait for my baby to join me. That's the real gift in it.
Yeah. And there are many ways, gosh, there are many ways as there are people that connection can look, it's going to be different for everybody, I would imagine. And whilst I'm not sure I had anything exactly like you're talking about here with the, like you say, the spirit baby communication and really seeing a vision of your baby, I can see kind of other ways as well that I felt that connection, just now recognizing how really supportive that was and how it kept my focus and just made things feel like I was in the right place at the right time, if
Exactly.
do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
even from the first moment that me and my husband decided that we would try for a baby, we were in Aberdeen in Scotland, I remember it, and we were around the shops, and there was a shop called Mother Care that's like this big shop in the UK that sells baby clothes and things. So we said, let's just have a little wander around, let's just see how it feels, and just be in that kind of baby energy.
Yes.
And then we bought this little toy dog that we said, we'll call this dog Lucky, and this will be our baby's first toy. And I didn't know at that stage it would be 2.5 years till I even conceived, but we had that, that toy was there and he was with us. And and along the way I felt those connections. We had a very early loss at one stage. It would be really classified more as a chemical pregnancy, very, very early loss. But it was the first time that I'd seen a positive pregnancy test and shown what was possible. And I remember that night when I had the test, and I went to sleep that night not knowing if it would stay or go, and a little vision of a dark-haired girl just came in then drifted away again, and it was like very kind of naturally, I'm here for a moment and now I'm leaving, and it didn't feel sad, it just felt, I don't know, I can't explain it, I can't put words to it, it's just that kind of that communication and that showing like you can do this. Not here yet, I'm not arrived yet, and it might be someone else that arrives later, and it was a blonde-haired boy. But really, really kind of comforting to have that connection in however it shows up. And sometimes we can encourage it, like going and buying the toy, can't we? Sometimes we can just allow it and see what comes through, or work with someone like you and facilitate that and start to open our minds and our hearts. But it's a beautiful thing to do.
I love that you mentioned, that was so beautiful, the experience you had with purchasing the little doggy toy. I love that because, that is something that it can feel very scary, when I mention that to my clients, like, well, how do we feel about starting to get the nursery ready or starting to get the room ready for baby? And a lot of times I find that my clients are like, oh my gosh, Vanessa, can I really do that? I've wanted to do that for so long, but when I mention it to people, family or friends, they say, no, don't do that. That's jinxing it. That's bad luck. But in their heart, they want to so badly. And so, of course, you know what I say. I'm like, yes, of course you can do whatever you want. It's your baby. And then, on the same note, if there are clients that are like, you know what, that feels good, but I need to just step into, kind of like tiptoe into it little by little, then that's great too. The speed, to go. But absolutely, I feel like a lot of it is just giving yourself permission. So giving yourself permission to connect with baby and to really be curious and to explore what that relationship already looks like and what it will look like in the future.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the tapping round that we did at the summit, and that was a lot around, fearing that I'll never conceive, and having those real, it can almost feel like a certainty, those fears, can't it? If we think about those fears enough and we live in those fears enough, it then becomes impossible to even imagine that we will have a baby. And so it becomes harder to then, buy the toy, think about the nursery, allow yourself to have that sort of connection if the fear is really strong. And it's a protective fear often, isn't it? Like we just said about the vulnerability, it kind of builds up until it just feels, it's too much, isn't it? It doesn't feel right in the end. It doesn't feel protective. It feels like a barrier and an obstacle. So I think, yeah, if this is resonating with anyone listening, that you're finding this kind of aspect difficult to think about, or you wish you could, you wish that you could step into that, but it doesn't feel possible for you, then I really think Vanessa's tapping round that she shares at the summit could be so helpful as a gentle introduction to opening those doors, and feeling safe with those thoughts.
Yes, there's if we have time, there's a quick story I'd love to share.
Oh yes, please
that
do.
I had with one of my clients. So she was one that was very skeptical about, this whole spirit baby connection, woo-woo stuff. But she was intrigued, and she had an open mind. She's like, okay, let's do it. And one thing that she always came back to was, she's like, Vanessa, I know our donor is completely sold out. They're not, the sperm bank. I think if you decide to reach out to the donor, well, obviously, if you ask the sperm bank to reach out to the donor, it's a very like $5,000 just to see if they're even interested. And they could say no, and you still have to, pay that $5,000 just for them to reach out. But through the work that we were doing, she kept saying, I know the donor is sold out. I know it's not possible, but I just keep seeing all the traits of the donor. Every time I visualize my baby, every time I see my baby, I just keep feeling this connection to this donor. What is that about? And of course, I didn't know, but I knew there was something there that we had to explore. And so, we did some private coaching together. She went through my 8-week fertility freedom program, and come to find out, she had so much clearing to do. She didn't realize a lot of things from her past that were still kind of, in her words, keeping her stuck. The donor did come back on his own accord. He wanted to make some more donations, and it was, through that they went on to get pregnant immediately. But she told me, she was like, Vanessa, had I not known about connecting with baby, I would have most likely moved on to another donor. And she said, I don't know where that experience would have led me. She said, but I could see them so clearly. And I knew there was something with this donor I just couldn't let go of. And so anyway, it's just so amazing to see how much our babies can really guide us if we know the steps to connect with them. And so I just love sharing that with people.
That's beautiful, really beautiful. Yeah. Very, very quick, just completely alternative route to parenthood that I can relate to that story as well is our path to adoption. Once
yes.
we did conceive our first child, and yeah, it was all wonderful. I could really relate to what you said at the start, though. Then second time round, I was like, great, I understand my hormones now. I know exactly what I need to do to get pregnant, and I'll chart my cycles again. I'll have acupuncture. I'll follow that particular fertility diet, and fantastic, I'll get pregnant easily this time because I sorted that out.
Right.
But yeah, as soon as we started trying, and I looked at my cycles, and my husband had a test as well, we were like, gosh, things are a lot worse than they were before. And we put it down to having a baby and being exhausted, and we were in a different place. And we quite quickly, probably perhaps maybe quicker than most people would, I don't know, but we felt really drawn to adoption. And as soon as we made that decision, I could no longer even think about trying to conceive again. It felt like my baby is out there, and they might even be born now. I didn't know. They might be growing in their birth mother's womb, or they may be born, I don't know, but they're definitely out there. And I could really feel that. And people would say, as soon as someone adopts, they get pregnant, that happens. I was like, well, it's not happening here. We're preventing it. We don't want to get pregnant now. This is what we're doing, and I just really felt that connection. And as soon as we met our little boy, and he locked eyes with us, and he was only 4 months old at the time, and he just reached out to us, and he wanted to be held immediately. And yeah, the bond was there straight away.
I got chills.
Oh, so you just never know, do you? You never know where you're going to go on this journey. It's definitely being prepared for the unexpected and the twists and turns. And yeah, staying open and receptive and listening to those little clues and those little nudges along the way. And if that's hard, if you can't hear them and you're afraid to hear them or whatever, then yeah, someone like you and all the work you do, holding that space for someone and allowing them. It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for doing what you do, from taking
thank you.
Your pain, your heartache, but then your absolute joy as well in having your children and bringing it to this world of fertility support. It's a real pleasure to get to know you.
Thank you so much. Same here.
Oh, and of course, if everyone listening, if you'd like to continue this conversation with Vanessa and hear more about how she can really support you and do a tapping round actually straight away at the summit as well and get support instantly, then do come and join us. It's a Fertility Stress Solution Summit, which in my opinion, and of all the speakers there as well, the solution to fertility stress is a lovely, amazing, slightly strange looking technique called EFT, which is also called tapping, and we would love to introduce you to it. So that's what we're doing all week long at the summit. We're right in the middle of it right now. So if you come over, you can absolutely catch up with all the sessions, still watch Vanessa's as well, and do lots and lots of tapping with us. We'd love to see you there. And Vanessa, as well as chatting to you over there at the summit this week, how else can people get in touch with you? Where can we find you online and on social media?
Yes, so you can always reach out to me at hello@queerfertility.co. And I am on Instagram. You can find me at queerfertility.co. My most favorite place to hang out is on Facebook. I have a free community that you can get support from, and that is LGBTQ Trying to Conceive, Pregnancy, and Fertility. So send me a message, come hang out with me in my Facebook group. And yeah, I'm so excited to meet people and help them.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wonderful. Really, really good to speak to you, Vanessa. And I'm sure this is our second time speaking. It won't be the last, I'm sure.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah.
I'm so pleased you're listening to the Fertile Mindset podcast, and now I would love to invite you to join us in the Fertile Mindset Sanctuary. The Sanctuary is my fertility support membership, which is focused on taking care of you and helping you enjoy your life while you wait for your baby. In the Sanctuary, I'll guide you through using an amazing technique called EFT or tapping, and you'll soon be feeling less stressed and more joyful. If you're not already in the Sanctuary, do come and join us today, because the best time to start receiving support on your fertility journey is always right now. Honestly, it makes such a difference to have good quality emotional support and techniques that you can pick up and use yourself whenever you need them. Go to fertilemindset.com/sanctuary to join us today. I look forward to hopefully seeing you there and at the next episode of the Fertile Mindset podcast.